The spring sports season is coming to a close at UDC, and graduation is right around the corner, so we've got a lot to cover before the summertime is upon us. Today on Firebird Nation Sports Update, we'll review the men's tennis NCAA tournament run and visit with head tennis coach Dickie Mahaffey to hear all about it. We'll recap the women's outdoor track and field season and hear about their prospects for NCAA postseason action. We'll check in at the annual Firebird Student Athlete Recognition Banquet and hear about all the team award winners for the 2012-13 year. We'll visit with Director of Athletics Patricia Thomas and the new Firebird lacrosse coaches to hear about the historic formation of collegiate men's and women's lacrosse at UDC. All that and more coming up, so stay with us on the Firebird Nation Sports Update. Hello, this is Firebird Nation Sports Update, your inside look at the University of the District of Columbia athletics. I'm your host, Matt Rienzo. Flap your wings and get ready to soar because the Firebird is rising in the nation's capital. Despite a somewhat anticlimactic end, the Firebird men's tennis team enjoyed a terrific 2012-13 season. The District of Columbia finished with an overall record of 11-5 and an undefeated regular season conference mark of 5-0 to give the men's program their first ECC regular season title. UDC defeated two top 5 regionally ranked opponents, as well as Division I Howard University. The Firebirds earned the top seed in the ECC Championship Tournament, but they were upset by number 3 seed NYIT in the finals. Despite the loss, they still earned an at-large bid to the NCAA East Regional Tournament as a number 4 seed. Unfortunately, though, they were ousted in the first round by their ECC nemesis, Queens College, after a tough 5-3 loss. It was a tremendously successful season nonetheless that saw the Firebirds claim 3 first-team All-ECC selections in Ike Kiro, Miguel Uzcatequi, and Alexander Grabovac. Grabovac was named the ECC Men's Tennis Player of the Year, while head coach Dickie Mahaffey was named ECC Men's Tennis Coach of the Year. Switching over to women's track and field, on the heels of a historic indoor track and field championship season, the Firebirds women's outdoor track and field squad set out to prove their indoor championship was no fluke. So far, they've done just that, continuing to dominate the sprint and jump events within the East region. The Firebirds gave a valiant effort at the ECC Outdoor Championships on April 27th and 28th, but they couldn't overcome Georgian Court's dominance in the field events. Kadian Jones, who earned Division II National Honorable Mention honors for her performance, registered 50 of the team's 162 points, as she earned 3 individual titles in the 100-meter, 200-meter, and the long jump. Jones helped UDC to a 4x400-meter relay title and pitched in 2 other point-scoring performances in the 400-meter and the triple jump. Stay tuned for news on potential NCAA participants coming soon on the track. In other news, the University of the District of Columbia Athletic Department hosted its annual Student Athlete Recognition Luncheon on Friday, April 26th in the UDC gym. Approximately 100 student athletes and staff attended, and the event included remarks by Director of Athletics Patricia Thomas, as well as all the head coaches who presented Coaches Awards and Team MVP Awards. The women's basketball team was crowned the winner of the Competition Cup for a second straight year. The Competition Cup Award is based on 3 criteria: academic performance, school spirit, and community service. The athletic department also recognized 10 student athletes who belonged to the 4.0 GPA club, 30 student athletes who made the dean's list, and 66 student athletes who made the director's list. To conclude the event, recent UDC Athletics Hall of Fame inductee Dr. Michael Glasgow and UDC trustee Jerome Shelton presented the Reslin Woodruff Henley Memorial Award to men's soccer senior student athlete Mario Benegas. Mario, a 3-year captain and the president of the Student Athlete Advisory Committee, has proven to be a terrific all-around student athlete and leader during his time at UDC. Congratulations, Mario. We're going to take a short break. When we return, we'll visit with Director of Athletics Patricia Thomas. We're now joined by University of the District of Columbia Athletic Director Patricia Thomas. Patricia, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
The main reason for having you on is we want to talk about the addition of the men's and women's lacrosse programs here at the University of the District of Columbia. Tell us what went into that decision. Why did the university add lacrosse? Why lacrosse?
It really made perfect sense, and for a lot of reasons, Matthew. Number one, lacrosse is the fastest growing sport in the country on the NCAA level and on the high school level as well. And we are located in a hotbed for the sport, again, on the high school level and intercollegiately as well. And adding the sport was also an opportunity to address sport sponsorship, to increase the number of sports that the university sponsors, and was part of our commitment to the East Coast Conference as well.
And the East Coast Conference is a very good lacrosse conference.
Absolutely.
Heavily located in New York, and so that'll be excellent competition for the new lacrosse programs, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
We're going to have the lacrosse coaches on in a couple minutes. Tell us how you selected them and what you think about your new coaches, Scott Urick and Melinda Zwick-Brown.
I am delighted to have both coaches on board. They are exceptional human beings and exceptional coaches. We actually launched a nationwide search, and the pool was extremely strong. It was a very competitive process, a very thorough process, but at the end of the day, I believe that we hired the best coaches.
Well, that's great, and we'll look forward to talking to them soon. As I mentioned, the East Coast Conference is a very competitive lacrosse conference. How difficult do you think the first couple of years are going to be?
It's not going to be easy. It absolutely is an exceptional conference in the sport of lacrosse. However, again, we have fantastic coaches on board, and given our location, I believe that we will be competitive relatively quickly.
That was going to be my next question. How good do you think they can get, and how quickly?
No pressure to our coaches, Matthew, at all. I'm realistic, and I do believe it will take a couple of years. But again, I think that we will realize some success in a relatively short time.
Well, we'll look forward to that. Now, like I said, we're here to talk mainly about lacrosse, but while I have you on, let me just ask you a couple additional questions. Recently, the men's cross-country team in the fall had 3 participants in the NCAA.
Yes.
Women's indoor track and field had 1 student athlete in the NCAA, and they also won the East Coast Conference Championship.
Yes.
Men's tennis made the NCAA tournament. Last year, there was a lot of success in the athletic department with both men's and women's tennis making the NCAA tournament, men's and women's basketball making the NCAA tournament. Mm-hmm. That's a lot of success over the last 2-year period. What do you attribute all that success to?
It's just tremendous. The response of our coaching staff, again, our coaching staff are second to none. I'll put them up against any staff in the country, and obviously our student athletes are committed to what they're doing athletically and academically as well. We just have a great core of individuals representing the university.
And I'm sure a lot of more success to come in the coming years as well.
Looking forward to it.
Hopefully.
That's the plan.
One last question. Last week we celebrated the Student Athlete Recognition Luncheon.
Yes.
Tell us about that event. What were your thoughts about it?
That's a wonderful annual event. And again, it provides an opportunity to acknowledge and recognize the achievements of our student athletes. And again, my favorite quote from the late President Miles Brand is, at the end of the day, it's all about the student athlete. And so again, it's just very gratifying to bring them all together and in one opportunity just recognize the many wonderful things that they do.
One of the unique things about the banquet is the Reslin Woodruff Henley Award that's given out annually.
Yes.
For a combination of different things: academics, leadership, character, obviously athletic ability as well.
Yes.
Mario Benegas won that award this year. Just tell us about that award and how unique it is.
That award is the highest award that the athletic department distributes each year, but it provides an opportunity for us to connect with the alumni. The legacy of Reslin Henley is tremendous. He had a lasting impact on alma mater, and we were just delighted that Dr. Michael Glasgow, a recent Hall of Fame inductee, as well as trustee Jerome Shelton, were able to be with us to present the award. So again, not only do we recognize an outstanding student athlete, but we connect with our alumni, and that's very important.
That's great, and that's something that the athletic department has been doing a good job of recently, especially with the Hall of Fame and other events like that.
Thank you, yes.
Well, that's all the time we have. Thanks very much for being with us today.
Thank
We're
you.
looking forward to talking to the lacrosse coaches soon, so thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Matthew.
When we come back, we're going to visit with head men's and women's lacrosse coaches Scott Urick and Melinda Zwick-Brown. We'd now like to welcome for the first time on Firebird Nation Sports Update the new leaders of the men's and women's lacrosse programs, Scott Urich and Melinda Zwick-Brown. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
And first of all, congratulations on being the new coaches at the University of the District of Columbia.
Thanks again.
Melinda, let's start with you. Starting a new program, what's it like starting a program from scratch?
It really, it's an honor. It's all about what you want and what you envision in a program, which is really nice. It's kind of a dream come true for both Scott and I to be able to start from the ground up and create something that we want and how we want it to be.
And it must be tough enough to be a head coach for the first time, but to start a program from scratch must be very challenging. What are some of the challenges that you face in starting a brand new program?
Sure. Well, just getting some traction to begin with is a little bit challenging. But honestly, it's been going pretty well, I think, for us. And getting the word out about the school and the fact that we will have a program next year was the initial challenge, just getting, literally spreading the word about that. But again, it's an awfully exciting opportunity, like Melinda mentioned. But literally, the traditions we start they'll be ours from the get-go, and the foundation we build will be, for years to come, building upon that. So it's an exciting opportunity, and we've had a blast with it so far.
It sounds like you're taking any of those challenges and turning them into positive opportunities.
Absolutely. I mean, which in general, that's what I think one should look for in life, but certainly with this particular opportunity, absolutely. It is going to be a very, very positive experience and very rewarding for anyone involved in it.
Now, who will you be playing? You're obviously in the East Coast Conference, as we mentioned earlier in our interview with Patricia. Will you be playing local teams as well? Tell us about your schedule.
Well, the ECC is a big conference, so we're actually going to have quite a few conference games. Most of those teams are located farther north, up in the New York area especially. And it's a great lacrosse conference. I would say it's the best lacrosse conference in the country. So,
in Division II? In
Division II, yes. And so right off the bat, we're going to have a tremendous schedule, which, of course, that's what we want. We want to play the best teams we can, and so we will have accomplished that right away. But we added some other teams as well, some other programs that are new. Mount Olive, which is down in Carolina, and Dominican, which is out in California. They both competed this year for the first time, and so I will have them on the schedule for next year as well to get some startup programs as well in the mix.
That's great. And Melinda, will your schedule look similar to the men's schedule?
Yes, we have 8 ECC schools to play, and then we're going to be playing Wilmington, and we're going to be playing Shepherd in the spring, which are the closest schools to us.
There aren't a lot of Division II schools in the area that play lacrosse, so I think the Philadelphia area, Delaware, sometimes is the closest that you can reach. So, now I know you can't mention specific recruits at this time due to NCAA rules, but tell us about how the recruiting's going.
Recruiting's going great. As Scott said, what we're doing right now is putting our name out. We're digging in with the people we already have connections with and going further with them. We have a couple commits already, which we're looking forward to get a couple more. It's all about, setting goals for ourselves and trying to hit those goals each and every month for recruits.
And you need to bring in an entire team for the fall. So how many people would that be that you're looking to bring in for the fall?
I'm looking to bring in anywhere from 15 to 20 girls next fall.
Okay.
And I believe Scott's looking to bring in
25 to 30 for me would be the number I'm trying to reach.
And how is the recruiting going for you and your program?
It's going well. It's going very well. I've been able to, as Melinda mentioned, fall back on some contacts I've made through the years for sure to get some inroads. But obviously recruiting regionally as much as possible. As Patricia mentioned, this is a great part of the country for lacrosse players. And if I can have a roster heavy with local kids, I would love to do that. And up in Maryland, there are 5 junior colleges in Maryland and 1 in Northern Virginia that are all very competitive programs. And as you mentioned, there aren't many Division II programs within this general vicinity. So we have a real leg up, I think, in that regard as well.
Now tell us a little bit about the men's game for viewers who haven't even seen lacrosse. Tell us about the sport. What's it like?
Well, it takes a tremendous athlete to be successful, first of all. It's an exciting sport. It's often referred to as the fastest game on 2 feet. And what they mean by that is it's very up and down. There's a lot of transition. I will say it looks a lot like basketball in some regards. It's fast breaks and such, and 5-on-5 in basketball, but 6-on-6 in lacrosse. But similar concepts in terms of picks and screens and all those types of things. But it's meant to be fast-paced. There have been some rule changes lately that have revamped that style, and I think it's going to be an awfully fun team we're going to have to watch next year, because I do intend to bring in some very good athletes and play a fast tempo.
And they say that it's a mix of a lot of different sports. Basketball, like you mentioned, some soccer, some hockey, some football, because there is hitting. You know, you wear helmets and full pads and everything, so there's that component as well. So it's an exciting sport to watch. Now, what about the women's game? What's the difference between the two games?
I like to say it's the prettier version of lacrosse. You have to have very good hand-eye coordination, good stick work. There's not any body-to-body contact, so therefore we need to have really good stick work and be finesse about our play.
So there's no body checks like there are in the men's game, that being one of the predominant differences.
Correct. It's all just stick-to-stick checking.
Now let's talk a little bit about community service, community engagement, because that's a big part of the University of the District of Columbia's mission. The School Without Walls, which is a DC public school, it's a charter school, came and you did a clinic for the School Without Walls the other day. Tell us a little bit about that.
I did. It was great. Great kids, very enthusiastic, and honestly, for a group of young men who haven't been playing for very long, they made some real strides, I thought.
They had been playing for 6 or 8 weeks up to that
Yeah,
point?
about 6 to 8 weeks, and we did obviously kept it pretty basic and did a lot of the basic skill level type stick work and those types of things. Some shooting and ground balls, very technique oriented teaching. But they picked up on some concepts awfully quickly, and I know they had a good time with it, which was the most important.
Well, it's good to see an inner city school, a public school, playing the game of lacrosse, and Wilson High School has a team and a few others as well within the Washington, D.C. boundaries. There's also an inner city lacrosse program called Winners Lacrosse, which tries to spread the game to people from the inner city and help really just spread the game, in the area.
Sure.
You're interested in working with Winners Lacrosse. Tell us about that program and how you're going to be able to interact with them.
Yeah, absolutely. We actually just met with their executive director this past week and his staff. Matt Breslin is his name, great guy. He and I have been friends for quite a while. And it's obviously a tremendous program, as you mentioned, bringing lacrosse to the inner city. And we're going to partner with them very closely starting, of course, this fall when our kids get to campus. But start out, some clinics and those types of things for sure to teach the game to the young men and women involved in Winners. But more in-depth mentoring program too as we move forward and make sure that our student athletes here at UDC engage with these young men and women, and again, they really develop more of a relationship with them.
And that's something that I imagine the women's program can get involved with as well.
Yes, we're going to be in the mentor program, hopefully hold some clinics and camps here and help out with them with their teams and get our girls coaching the young ladies there.
Now that's a big step towards helping grow the game in the Washington, D.C. area. What else can you do to help grow the game? I mean, obviously just having a program will help to create interest. What else can you do to help grow the game in the D.C. area?
Well, I do think having a program, I think, is going to be a tremendous step in the process. I think specifically, for instance, the young men and women within Winners, there will be, it's kind of a light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak, with, wow, if I stick with this, if this sport is something I enjoy so much, I can potentially play it collegiately and maximize my education
and stay
as well
in the
as
Washington,
athleticism,
D.C. area.
and stay locally to do that, for sure. And I do plan on, as I know Melinda does as well, having a great product out there in the field in the spring, and so I expect to draw some people to campus to get some positive exposure for the school and so forth as well.
That's a good segue to my next question, getting people to campus. When will your games start and where will they be?
They're going to be right behind our sports complex on the field, which will be turfed next year, which we're really excited about. And then our first game is in February 28th, 2014.
Okay, and you'll have student athletes on campus in the fall practicing throughout the fall season.
Absolutely, yes.
That's great, and then the ECC schedule just starts with this first season?
It does. Our first ECC game is the first weekend in March, and we go from there, obviously in 2014. So
now, I understand both of you were exceptional players in your own right and coaches as well. Tell us a little bit about your coaching background. Let's start there.
Well, I coached for 1 year up at Cornell University, and I was at Georgetown for 11 years before taking the position here at UDC.
Great.
And I coached at University of Connecticut for 3 years.
And so you're going to be able to bring those experiences at those respective universities to here to help build those programs. That will be a tremendous help to you?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, I had a chance to learn from some tremendous coaches. Jeff Tamburoni and Dave Urick were the two head coaches I worked for, and I would say most people would regard them as two of the best in the business. And so I'm certainly going to lean on their tutelage quite heavily.
Well, I'm sure you both are going to do a tremendous job in not only attracting student athletes here, but also building successful programs. So we certainly wish you the best of luck. Thank you for being on the show today. And we'll look forward to next year having you on the show while you're in your season and hearing about hopefully a couple wins. We don't want to make expectations too high initially, but I'm sure you're going to do some great things. So thanks for being with us today.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
We're going to take a short break. When we return, we'll visit with men's and women's tennis coach Dickie Mahaffey. We're now joined by UDC men's and women's tennis coach Dickie Mahaffey. Coach, thanks for being with us on the show.
Thanks for having me, Matt.
Now, Coach, last year you had tremendous success, banner years, in fact. The women's team won the ECC championship and advanced to the NCAA tournament. The men's team made the NCAA tournament as well. This year, your women's team battled through injury, but they still had a very solid year with an 8-5 record. Your men's team was 11-5, made the NCAA tournament again. It's a tremendous couple years back to back. How did you get all this success?
It's, just keeping the kids motivated, lots of hard work. I really commend both teams for their character this year. I mean, to overcome the adversity and the challenges that both teams faced this year. I am extremely pleased with how both teams perform.
And it's important to note you have very good students on your teams as well. They do a great job in the classroom. So
Thank you.
That's to your credit and to their credit as well. You have some star student athletes for sure on the men's side. Alexander Grabovac, Ike Kiro, and Miguel Uzcatequi were all first team all conference. Alex was men's tennis player of the year. On the women's side, Jessica Nunez was first team all conference. Maxime Daoust and Kristina Nepividova were second team all conference. Tell us about some of those student athletes and their ability and the makeup of your team.
Well, we'll start with Alex again, as you mentioned, player of the year, men's tennis, East Coast Conference. Just a tremendous competitor, worked extremely hard, not just on the tennis court, but with strength and conditioning outside the court.
He's a big, strong athlete.
Yes.
He looks like he could be a football player or something.
Absolutely. Very fit, tremendous athlete. And as many people know, when you play the number one position, whether on the men or women's side, you rarely, if ever, have a day off, and you're playing against the best of the best. And he competed at an extremely high level. Miguel and Ike, both just tremendous competitors, always giving 110%. Had some great matches this season. On the women's side, Jessica Nunez, as you said, just her third year in a row, is first team all conference.
That's a tremendous accomplishment right there.
Tremendous accomplishment, and also she's ranked in the top 4 in the region. And I mean, that's just a testament to not only her competitiveness and how well she's done on the court, but she's also earned the respect of other coaches in the region as well.
Well, that's great. Now, it's important to mention your players obviously do a great job, but you do a great job too. You were recognized as Coach of the Year on the men's side, so congratulations on that.
Thank you very much.
How proud are you of that? That's pretty outstanding.
I'm extremely proud because, as you mentioned, both teams had a great season. Again, as I mentioned before, just a testament to their character and their hard work, and I attribute it all to them.
That's great, and that's what good coaches do. They always give their players the credit. Now, your men's tennis team was selected for the NCAA tournament for the second year in a row, as I mentioned earlier. How did the NCAAs go for your team?
Well, we didn't finish as we would have liked. Disappointing loss in the first round versus a conference rival, Queens College. Very good team. We started off strong. They battled back, were able to secure the win. While disappointed, still very proud of my team.
And you see Queens all the time on the men's and women's side. That's got to be very frustrating to have lost to them in the NCAA tournament. So, but a great season nonetheless. To get to the NCAA tournament 2 years in a row, that's outstanding. So congratulations on that. I want to talk about Kristina Nepividova because for people who don't follow the team that closely, she's a really interesting story. She's battled injury for 2 years. She's had 2 shoulder surgeries, yet she still battles back and is your number 2 player. Seems to have amazing toughness and effort and determination. Tell us about Kristina.
Well, it's funny. She plays in the 2 position, but my joke with everybody is that I've got a 1A and a 1B. Kristina is that good of a tennis player on our team. She has been a fabulous leader for the last 2 years. As you mentioned, 2 surgeries over the last 2 years, has had to serve the whole time underhanded. That being said, she still has a winning record at the number 2 position on the team.
That's unbelievable. She's been serving underhand, yet she's still winning all these matches.
Yes, just a fierce competitor. And even in her losses, they're very close. Nobody's beaten her easily.
That's incredible. Now, one other individual I'd like to talk about is Simon Bradkey, who's a soccer player who came out for the team this year and filled your 6th spot. I'm sure he's not the best player technique-wise on your team, but he's a very good athlete and certainly adds a lot to the program. Talk about Simon a little bit.
In a lot of ways, Simon Bradkey embodied the spirit of a men's team this year. He, as you mentioned, very good athlete, but just a fierce competitor. Never gives up, works hard. We joke around with him that if he played himself, if today's Simon played Simon from 6 weeks ago, he'd crush him.
Yeah, I bet he would.
And his energy and competitiveness was just uplifting. It brought everybody up, and it was inspiring.
That's great, and it seems like he's really added to your team, so that's
Absolutely.
awesome. Now, one last question. I understand you're doing a camp this summer at the University of
Yes.
District of Columbia, a tennis camp. When is it? Tell us about it.
We're hosting a Dickie Mahaffey tennis camp at the University of the District of Columbia the weeks of June 10th and June 17th.
Held right here on campus?
Here on campus. Camp is being offered to children ages 5 through 17. 5 through 7-year-olds is a half-day camp. Everybody else is eligible for a full-day camp or half-day camp.
And they can find the information on the website?
Yes, they can.
At udcfirebirds.com.
Yes.
So that's a great opportunity for our viewers who maybe want to get their kids involved in tennis. Great opportunity to get coached by an excellent coach. So great job this season once again. Your teams continue to impress, and we'll look forward to having you back on the show next fall.
I look forward to it. Thanks, Matt.
Thanks a lot, Dickie. That's all the time we have today. I'd like to thank our guests, Director of Athletics Patricia Thomas, lacrosse coaches Scott Urich and Melinda Zwick-Brown, and tennis coach Dickie Mahaffey. Please don't forget to follow Firebird Athletics on the web at udcfirebirds.com, on Twitter at UDC Firebird Fans, and on Facebook at UDC Athletics. Thanks for watching the Firebird Nation Sports Update. I'm your host, Matt Rienzo. The Firebird is rising in the nation's capital, and we're glad you're along for the ride.